Welcome to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I am your host, Tricia Carr. Thank you for joining me today. If you're joining us live, welcome, and I have a very exciting show for you. Well, we have a very exciting show because we are co-creating it. And if it is your first time joining, welcome as well. If you're listening on an archived episode, whether it's on YouTube, which you can find my YouTube channel by youtube.com/Tricia Carr. Is that right? Yeah, that's it. And you can watch the archives of Charmed Life up there on YouTube. And I'm also posting a lot of other video content, a lot of other things on spirituality, fun topics like that. And I really would love it if you would like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that kind of stuff, because the reason I'm doing this is because I want to connect with you. And by connecting with you, we are making this beautiful planet even more beautiful. Well, we're just making our hearts connect with the beauty of this planet. How about that? And then also, you can find the audio, the podcast version of Charmed Life on iTunes and Spreaker and Stitcher and all of the podcast outlets. You can find it there. So please do subscribe and like there. And I think you can leave reviews. So I would love it if you would leave a review too. Join the conversation with me, please. I love you so much. I would also like to tell you a little bit about a class that I have. It's actually going to be released this week. It's an online class that is self-paced, and you can take it at any time, and it's really exciting. I think it's really exciting. It is on telepathy. Now, we are all telepathic. We are all engaging in subtle vibrational language. And how can I prove this to you? Well, I'll give you one little example. When you walk into the room of the person that you're closest to, whether it's your spouse, your partner, your best friend, anyone or your parents, someone like that, you walk into the room and they're not even facing you. And you can feel what mood they're in, right? You may even feel like maybe even a little bit of a statement. You're like, I know what's happened even. That's telepathy. That's you engaging in and just communicating with vibrational language. Isn't that isn't that familiar to you? You can feel that, right? So basically, the reason I am putting out this class on telepathy, this introduction to telepathy, is really just to help us remember this language, because it is our first language, and to help us to be able to engage in it very consciously, because as we continue, you all are here probably because whether you've discussed it with someone or not, or heard me say it on this show, you feel that we are raising our vibration, globally speaking. And what I mean by raising vibration is where everything is speeding up, and everyone is really coming together in identifying with love. And one symptom of that is actually we get to see a lot of negativity, because we're sort of we're flushing out the old habits. You can think of it as maybe hitting rock bottom before, we have to look at all of the stuff that we want to move out, and so that we can move things back in. You have to see the dirt in order to clean house. So as this is happening and we are ascending together in vibration, we're going to continue to do things that are just faster. And what is faster than communicating without words? So that's what I believe as we ascend in this reality. We are going to be using this language more, this non-physicalized language. And that actually leads me into, I should say, to finish that this course is going to be released this week. Please do go to my website, and if you are one of the first 20 to purchase the class, it's going to be significantly discounted. It's already going to be a really inexpensive class. I'm not saying the cost of it yet, because I haven't quite set it. I am going to really just be present with it when I launch it. It's really inexpensive though. But you can, I have a waiting list already for the first 20 people. So if you want to, and it may be more than 20 people, we'll see how the list goes. Feel free to email me or fill out my contact form on my website, triciacarcharm.com, and just reserve the spot for that discounted rate. And if you miss that, again, it's not going to be very much money at all, and it's going to be super fun. All right, so this does lead me into the exciting topic and the exciting guests I have today, and they are both dog behaviorists and trainers. And if I may please welcome Bennie Copeland and Nicole DeVito. Welcome, y'all.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi there. And by the way, I know y'all are in Nashville. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I am from Texas. That's why I still say y'all. And
y'all.
Sometimes my inner redneck just slips out. But I actually have embraced y'all. I think it's I just think it's a conjunction that I don't know why we don't all use it, because it's the proper way for the second person plural pronoun is you all. And nobody says you all, right?
Right. Or use guys. I guess that's up north, right?
Well, in California, we say you guys, too. And I say that a little bit, I think, but I mostly say y'all. Anyway, that is not our topic today. Our topic is all about doggies. And I think we already have people calling in. Isn't that exciting? So
very exciting.
Before I get into your stories and your work, I actually want to just go ahead and lay the groundwork about my story and my groundwork, my work, because it's my show. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, it is.
I'm kidding. It's true, but I'm kidding. But Jarvis, actually, I have to say, Jarvis is giggling in the room. If you can hear him, Jarvis is our producer. Thank you so much for being here today, Jarvis. Jarvis, I know you. I don't think you have a dog, right? No, we haven't discussed it, and I actually just can feel it right now. But I know you love animals and you love nature, because he's a very, very sensitive person and very, very loving. So how could you not love doggies? If you don't love doggies, it's just because you don't know them. But I wanted to share, if you've watched my show or listened to my show and you don't know the component of the work that I do, which is animal communication. What animal communication is what I was saying about telepathy. It is communicating in the subtle languages, the subtle vibrational language of thought, basically, and emotions as well. And so animals are actually really very articulate in this. It's how they primarily communicate. And we're going to talk about that, because I know that, Bennie, you talk about how the energy that we communicate to the animal, and how that actually is what is really the most effective. And we hear other dog trainers and dog behaviorists talk about how you have to have the right energy, like the space of your being, in order to be able to have success with your animal. And if you think about it, it makes so much sense, even if you look at it from a more objective or scientific perspective. Animals, it's not just physical cues. It's not just like seeing, and it's not necessarily just smelling. It's not just hearing. It's the feeling, and all of us can engage in that. In this moment, we can just feel. I feel something. It's like I can feel it with my heart. I'm not taking it in with my physical senses. There's something happening with my heart. And so that's what I do as an animal communicator. I paid a lot of attention to it, kind of like you would pay more attention to being a better musician. And I really do think it is very much a creative activity like anything else. So that's a little preface about what I do. Now let's hear about what you guys do. I would love to hear about your work or your journey, or what you're doing today and how you got here. Whatever you want to share. Shall we start with Bennie?
Thank you. I've actually been training since 2001, and it started how I think most people start. My daughter wanted a dog. And so through that process of getting her a dog and hiring a trainer and doing all that, I fell in love with it. We originally, when we had talked, there was a way that I was taught to train. And one of the things that I learned about behavior and what we're talking about, the energy and things like that today, is that I just got it. Like, I got it about dogs. There was just something there.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, there are very few other people in this world that I've dealt with that are trainers or behaviorists or whatever that I feel that way. And I definitely feel that way about Nicole. And she worked with me early on. And we were actually having a conversation about just understanding that energy. Like, when we're in a room, how dogs respond and react to us just in the short time that we're with a dog, and how it frustrates owners so many times. It'll just frustrate them. Why is my dog doing this for you, or acting this way around you? And, that was a little bit of our conversation before ever starting up on the show.
Oh, and yes, please tell everyone about your podcast. I should let you mention that up front so that everyone can go on and find it right now, because Bennie has a podcast and Nicole is frequently a guest on it. Please let the audience know about that.
Yeah, the podcast is called Discover Your Dog. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher and all the major podcast outlets as well. And what we started out, we didn't even really know. So the first few episodes are just kind of my past, like what am I doing here? And then I started talking about my philosophies, my rules, my beliefs in training, my theories. And just recently, we've actually been covering very specific behaviors. So since the 60s, and we're up to, I think, 82 podcasts that we've recorded up to this point. And in the 60s, we started talking about very specific behaviors. Well, at this time, Nicole came in and she's been a guest and slowly doing more and more as a guest on the podcast.
And what Benny means by the 60s, he means his 60th episode, not in the 1960s. Boy, you are a pioneer.
No, back in the 1960s. Right.
Yeah, podcasting in the 60s.
Yeah.
That's
when
great.
I was 2.
Nicole, how about you? Would you like to share your journey and the work that you're doing? I know you're working with Benny, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up here in Nashville, and I think I came out of the womb just being connected to animals. I knew that was my thing from day one. So I went to school and got my bachelor's. I was studying veterinary medicine, and that was my track. And then along the way, I realized I really love the connection with people and the connection with animals, but not so much the veterinary medicine side of things. And that's when I met Benny. So he and I worked together for years. He did one-on-one in-home training, and I helped do the training at his kennel. We had a facility where we would take the dog in and train them for a month, and I worked at the facility training dogs. So as life happened, I moved away. I've been traveling the world and living all different places, and just recently moved back home to Nashville. So once I came back home to Nashville, Benny was kind of like, what are you doing? Get back into dog training. You were amazing. So we started working together again. And I've now been doing the in-home one-on-one training with him. And it's been such an amazing ride because, one, it's so great to be realigned with a passion that I've had my whole life and just kind of got steered away from. But two, as he mentioned briefly a moment ago, our style of training was very different back then versus how we are now and what we do now. So it's no coincidence that now we've realigned back into doing this dog training together because our style has changed much in the way my life has caused change and growth over the years. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, what I think is good to note is that, we do have a lot of similarities with animals, with dogs, and of course we have differences. We're not the least of which is that we're all individuals. We have individual dogs and individual humans, but we do have a collective difference in perspective. And with the way I talk about it, metaphysically speaking, is that we have different densities, and I'm not going to get into that in this because it's going to take us a whole it's a broader topic.
We can talk a whole show just on that.
We can. I will sometime. And I actually do cover that in my telepathy class, by the way. But what we do have a lot that is similar in common with animals and with dogs. One thing being that we are a mind, body, spirit complex. That what I'm hearing you guys say, it's like it is important to train the physical senses and to have that Pavlovian operant training where we are rewarding with physical responses. That is very important, and animals, absolutely all animals, including the human animals, respond to that. And we have this, which is fascinating and incredible. Our bodies are so intelligent with muscle memory, and we have responses that are so automatic that we forgot that we even created them. Animals have the same thing, but they have their they have the emotions that humans have. They have access to all of that spectrum, and then they have the mental capacity. So dogs can have neuroses just like humans. They can have mental illnesses. They can have trauma that they're responding to. They can have PTSD, and they can have all of the other positive things too. They do fall in love even, and they have purpose. And I'm sure that's something you guys work with a lot, is that the dog has to have a defined purpose in order to feel comfortable. You laughing at? Is that something that's
cute?
No, the pictures.
No, the picture
Oh.
was cute that came up.
Oh. Yeah, Jarvis is live producing this, and so if you're listening to the audio, you got to go watch the video too, because Jarvis is making it really fun for us.
Right, he's pulling out pictures that are very interesting. So.
Well, do we have those calls still, or did I lose them because I talked too much? Okay, would y'all like to take a couple of calls, and then I'm going to get to asking y'all some more questions. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Let's do it.
Hi there, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hi,
Hi, who is this?
this is Cheryl,
Hi, Cheryl. How are you? Where are you calling from?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. That's not too far from where I am. I'm in Hollywood. By the way, I forgot to mention my studio, the network from which we are broadcasting, Universal Broadcasting Network in Hollywood, California. So, Cheryl, what's on your mind? Do you have a doggy question, or did you just call for some Cheryl questioning?
I just call for some Cheryl questioning.
Okay, great. What's going on with you today? How can I help?
I don't know. We just moved here from Washington State, my husband and I.
Mm-hmm.
And when we lived in Washington, our desire is to own a home. And so when we lived in Washington, we had our foot in the home, the loan. We were about to close on the loan, and my husband lost his job.
Mm.
So there went that.
Mm-hmm.
So then now we live in Phoenix. We were about to close on the loan, and I lost my job.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I've been questioning spirit, like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, we are, as I said at the top of the show, this is happening to a lot of us because it's one way to look at it is people say that your life has to fall apart before your life can fall back together. But, you know, we recognize that we want to build something that is more aligned with our inner being. So if you don't mind, Cheryl, I'm just going to feel into you a little bit. And I feel you moving really rapidly toward that. And I think that what you're feeling right here is, wow, I feel really great inside, but then the outside isn't quite matching that. There seems to be some disappointments and things that are crumbling, but I feel this acceleration and this momentum toward really great positive things. And isn't that weird? Is that true? That's what's happening with you?
Exactly.
Yeah. So go ahead and just keep focusing on that acceleration, that momentum, and that joy and excitement in your heart. That is actually what is creating the new. And I feel you saying like, yeah, but my husband isn't quite there. He's really more freaked out than I am, and I'm gonna seem insane to him if I just say stay positive. Is that true?
Yeah, but you know, when I start thinking negatively, then he's the one that says, no, babe, we know better.
Yeah.
No, it's coming.
Yeah, he's like, I need you to be the positive one. I don't want to be the positive one. Yeah,
right.
and that it's okay. I know that on the surface, this kind of speak, it sounds like we're just being evasive or we're spiritually bypassing is what a lot of people call it. But I can feel in you, Cheryl, that you're truly not. And you're just calling in right now to have me lend my faith to your faith and to just continue. This is all an exercise in being very, very present and knowing that you're well right now, because that's our eternal nature is actually made up of now. And okay. I can feel you right now. Honestly, you are really adjusting in this very moment, and you're going to start materializing some really exciting things starting in the next few days. And I'm not one to talk about, I'm not a psychic who likes to predict the future, because the future is fluid and we're always creating it. But I feel you creating it in this very moment. And you're actually going to start seeing these things. You're going to see them show up like this, like spotlights are turning in on these different things you're manifesting. And I feel like just in the next few days, there's going to be one that's, maybe minor, but you're going to go ahead and infuse it with a lot of your positive belief and energy, and it's going to blossom more. And then you're going to feel this I see a snowball effect happening. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump back to our guest, our doggy guest, Cheryl, but please do reach out again, get in on the conversation with Facebook and everything, and call in again, check in with me again. I'd love to hear how things are going. Thanks for calling.
I sure would. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. So, we're going to get some person questions too.
That's okay.
I know that Nicole is very intuitive. I should ask Cheryl, ask if you had anything to add to Cheryl. Do you have anything? Did you feel any
I think you
there?
did a great job. I think a lot of times we do kind of get stuck in the hows. How are we going to make this work? And we only see one way that something can come to us or happen. And it is so important when you feel all that tense just to relax, enjoy the now, really trust. True trust is sometimes scary, but things can come in ways. That's what we call miracles. Can happen in a way you didn't expect.
And that's the joy of
little
life.
Surprises.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's why we're on this roller coaster. And all of that conversation goes to working with dogs because, we have these expectations. Well, they're not going to get it right this time. They're not going to get it right this time. Can you speak to that, right?
There's a lot of hows. So in the beginning, we have a knowing, like our dog training works. I have no doubt whatsoever when we start on day one, by the time we're finished with training at the end of the program, it's going to work. They're going to be happy. They're going to be communicating with each other and they're going to be living happily together. But in the beginning, sometimes clients are a little skeptical or scary. They want to know the how right now. How do I fix it right now? And we have to just sort of say, listen, trust me, just do the homework. It's going to work, and keep reminding them. And then once they get to the end, we always have that laugh, like, you were right, man, back day one, I was really skeptical, but I just had to trust you and allow them. Man, it couldn't have come together better. So
yeah, I mean, we don't like quantum leaps. I mean, we're capable of it, but we don't like it. It's weird.
I remember I have a client right now, every time she wants to know what's happening next. She's always saying, what are we doing next? What are we doing next? And I have to remind her, until you do this, we can't move forward.
There is no next.
Right. You have to do what we're doing now in order to be able to move forward to the next thing. And I think that that's it with training. That's it with life. As long as we are looking at what's going on now. I mean, I had a story in my head the whole time that lady was talking. The exact same thing happened to me. And I just trusted and I believed that I was going to be able to purchase my house. And everything you could imagine happened to keep that from happening. And I never stopped believing. And I kept going through and going through. And I now own this beautiful house that I've had for 2 years.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. I hope you're still listening, Cheryl, because Bennie has some great encouragement there. I've said before, we can't eat a sandwich unless we think about having a sandwich first. I mean, it's just not possible. Well, I have some really, I think, important questions. I mean, they're important to me. I wanted to get to for y'all. One is tell me exactly, I know you guys really focus on communicating with your dog in order to train. So talk to me about how important that communication, the honest and direct and genuine communication is important. I think it's important on both ends, is it not?
Oh, absolutely.
I hear somebody shaking their collar.
His eyes outside the door.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, absolutely it is. When I go into a new client and I'm talking to them about what my job is to close that communication gap. One of the biggest lessons for me was not just that I was communicating better with my dog, the fact that I could recognize so many things from her. Like I could see when she wasn't feeling good. I knew when something was going on with her. I could see when she was extremely happy. And those were the things that I started understanding that I never had with my other dog my other dogs prior, until I started this process of really understanding. Now, my job is to create these rules, to create this base structure for people. So once they create that structure, what they're creating is trust. Their dog trusts that they are going to do the same thing every time. And that's what a dog wants. They want you to do the same thing every time. They don't want you to come in one day and be okay with something and act a certain way and one thing, and then turn around and allow them to get away with it the next time. So in that communication, in that part of what we're teaching, it's to bridge that gap and to create that bond. Because what happens when the communication's better, I talk about it like Nicole and I actually traveled to Peru. And one of the things we were there, I was there for 11 days. And I noticed at the first, I didn't know anything. Like I could speak just enough Spanish to get us in a lot of trouble. And we ended up in a lot of trouble. as we went through, I started noticing we were hanging around people that knew English. We were speaking the language better. Our body language was even different. And that was the communication that was starting to happen there. And what in with dog training and with behavior, that's what's got to go on. And what my job is with an owner is to teach them that.
Yeah. Well, and we are not separate from our environment. I'm always, this is a metaphysical show. I'm always talking about how everything is energy. This is a sea of energy. And again, you can look at it from the physical and the non-physical perspective. I remember traveling to the Cayman Islands, and I remember that all of the birds, like the sparrow and the crow and the different insects, they looked similar to the insects at home, but they looked different too. And it blew my mind. It's like, wow, the crows actually have a little bit more of a seagull beak because that is what their environment calls for. And we just start to adapt. We're very adaptive because that is best for the entire ecosystem. That is best for the all. And that's what a dog is trying to do. So when you are unsettled, you are physically in charge of your dog. You feed them, you give them exercise, you take them to the vet, you keep them well. You are the person who is in the line of them staying physically well or alive. But so that's why they have to maintain this access to what I call like their primal brain or their primal nature, because they're under someone else's dominion. They're under, they're under our charge. So if something happens to us, they have to be able to get into that wild nature brain real quick. And so this is why those more challenging cases where, let's say, there are a couple of animals in the home or a couple of dogs, and one dog, they get excited and one dog will attack the other. That to me it usually speaks to the stress in the home in general, or maybe some trauma in the dog's past too, like that PTSD kind of angle. How do you handle those kinds of situations? And
dogs don't speak English. They start learning from us right away with our body language, the way we communicate, with the sounds we make, the way we move. They're constantly watching us and trying to figure us out. Right. 9 times out of 10, people aren't even aware of what their body language is saying or what they're communicating. I can have a client say, sit, Fifi, sit, no, hey, Fifi, sit. And the dog will sit, and I'll say, how many times did you say sit? And she'll go, once. We're not even aware of the body language that we're carrying or what we're doing. So it really helps. Part of our job is helping people become aware of just how they're acting, what they're saying, what they're doing, because your dog is confused. Your dog doesn't understand that this time when you say come, you mean it. So I come to you. And then later when I say come and you don't, and then I just leave it and move on, I don't know if come really means come sometimes or not. There's a lot of gray area. So we're really helping people understand what they're communicating.
One of the things,
go ahead.
Well, just to answer to what you had asked about the conflict. One of the things when an owner calls me and they're having this conflict with their dog, and of course I always ask to the level of what the conflict is to find out, is this truly aggression, or is this two dogs just kind of, being brothers and sisters or whatever, And what happens is, when I'm talking to an owner, what I tell them is that you haven't taken that role. Just like you said, Tricia, we're that are taking them, making them, creating this trust. And as an owner, if I'm being inconsistent and I'm not doing my job and being that pack leader, some people call it the dominant pack leader, and it all is just taking a role, being the one that's in charge and creating that trust. And if I'm not that, then they're going to have to conflict with each other. They're going to have to figure it out amongst themselves. And so I don't have those issues in my home, no matter who the dog is that comes in to visit or whatever, because ultimately I'm the one that they look to make those decisions.
There's another captain of this ship, so I don't have to worry about it.
Right. Yeah. And that's the truth. They shouldn't.
Yeah, right.
They shouldn't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Because we've brought them into our culture. We've brought them into our physical culture, and we're in charge of it. And so they're willing, and they're so wonderfully willing to be in our culture and to take a role and have a purpose that is inside our culture and love us and be, you know, as I see animals, they're like our spiritual guardians because they're so much better at being present than we are. And so that's the role that they want to take for us. And so, you know, we have to remove the obstacles from them being able to have that purpose that we've all agreed to together, which again is like you're saying. And as I understand, I don't know how. I was curious. Do you guys do you appreciate Temple Grandin's work? Because I've read in one of her books. I can't remember Animals something. Well, yeah, probably Animal something. But in her chapter on dogs, she talks about how. She refers to Cesar Millan talking about pack mentality, and she says that domesticized dogs are not actually like pack animals. She says it kind of looks like they're pack animals, but really they're family animals. They're juvenile wolves. They're always kind of like a juvenile wolf in their brain is the way that she says it. And wolves actually stay together as families for a very long time. The children actually stay with the parents for like until ages 3 and 5, and that's, you know, pretty physically mature, but they stay together, and so they have a family hierarchy, and that's actually what our dogs, it appears that it's like a pack, but it's really actually like a family, and if there's a group of them, then, you know, it's a hierarchical family. Are you guys familiar with Temple's work? Does that all make sense to you, or whether you're not, does that make sense to your experience?
I'm not familiar with the work, but I mean, absolutely, because as Bennie touched earlier, not only are dogs comfortable with routine and consistency, and they do start to really understand their role. So say they're comfortable in their role in the home, and you know, I have a client right now, she's been for 7 years the dominant of the family, and the dogs knew their role, but now she has a new boyfriend who's coming around, and the boyfriend has an older dog. So now that he's coming into the home, you know, when you've had a certain way of being for 7 years, now all of a sudden the larger dog's confused and attacking because he's questioning the dynamic in the home. So you can have a shift when family has a new baby, or like I said, the new boyfriend coming in, or you get a new dog. It starts to challenge everybody's comfortableness of their place. And so it really helps to have the owner competent and understand what they're communicating and understanding their role to help all of the other juveniles, as you're calling them, in the family, understand their place and be comfortable and confident in who they are and where they belong as well. You know what
with the clients that I work with, one of the things that I stress in my work is that when there is going to be a change in the home, or even if there's a change in your life, let's say as the person gets a big promotion, and that's a great thing, but it's a lot of stress. Your animals will feel that. And I talk about talk to your animals about it. Explain to them that there's going to be a change and everything's going to be fine. Because even if you're like, I'm not really sure about this telepathy stuff, and I'm talking about, you can just speak with your animals with your voice so that you can keep you could do it in your mind, or you could do it with your voice. They get it either way. But you can say it out loud so that you can keep your thoughts and your focus straight. And really just think about it from the human perspective as you're communicating with your dog. Look, I have a new job at work. It's going to be very stressful, but it's actually really good. And as I say those words, like my heart shifted, even though it's a made-up scenario. And everything's going to be great now. I'm going to be sleepier. I might be staying out later, but that's all fine because I'm going to keep coming home, and we're going to have dinner, and we're going to have walks. You would not believe how much of an impact, a positive impact that has on the animal and their comfort with whatever the changes are. And you know what? Just think about it when, in your example, Nicole, two families coming together and everybody's like, I don't know what's going to happen. Should I be this? Should I be that? The humans are thinking that. So if everyone could have a nice, relaxed, and just think about it and bring your awareness on all of the places, even, and say like, we're not sure about this part right now, about this element of how the dynamic is going to function, but that's okay because we're all just going to keep doing our best and loving each other. That would help us. Of course, it's going to help the dogs as well. And I tell people that, our animals, they are telepathic and they hear our thoughts, but they don't listen to all of them because we have 60,000 to 80,000 a day. So they can't listen to all of them. They have to be with their own thoughts too. So they pick up parts of it, and it really creates a lot of stress. If they don't know someone's leaving, are they ever coming back? Is someone else leaving? You know what I mean? Like the eldest son moved out of the home. Is everybody else leaving? Who's going to feed me? It makes sense. They would feel that way.
I think a part of that is that in the moment as a human, we don't realize it.
Exactly.
And why Nicole and I are in the business is because what happens, they start to recognize the problems that their dogs are having, and they see things. And then all of a sudden we're coming in and making them aware of all the changes, because in the moment you have a new relationship, you get a new job, you move to a new home, you have a baby, or, in the things, you're so caught up in that that you don't see what's going on with the dog. And then once you can be aware, that's a very simple fix. I remember I moved 6 times in 4 years at one point. Ooh. And it took me 3 times before I realized I need to work out every time I moved to a place, just to show her, hey, things are still the same, all going to be, the rules are fine. And she was able to relax much quicker when we would just go through a simple routine and a basic workout, which is something that was very familiar with her.
Oh, wow.
And in the moment, though, I didn't realize. It took me 3 moves before I even realized what was going on. And why is she freaking out? Why is she acting this way every time we go somewhere new?
Wow. I love Bennie, that you are grounding and validating what I am already I'm telling my clients that from this sort of very etheric and, non-physical and very feeling oriented way. And you're talking about it from the nuts and bolts of training, you know what I mean? Like physical training. It's just true. And again, they aren't that different from us. They're mammals, at least. I mean, we have a lot of similarities with non-mammals as well. But of course you can actually use, it's interesting that when I have, my sessions, and often the animal wants to talk about their purpose, or I just ask them about their purpose, or they just start even bragging about what their job is and how good they are. This is the kind of conversations I have with animals. There's one particular dog who just started bragging about his job, like how good he was at it. I'm in charge of the family and all that kind of stuff. And my clients were like, he has a job? And I was like, oh yeah, he has a job for sure. And he thinks he's really good at it. So congratulations, because, they are obviously giving him that feedback. I would love to know how important is the literal language that we use with dogs, like the actual words. How important is that? And I know we've been talking about the non-language, the feeling and the energy, and the physical, the other physical cues. What about the literal words? How important can that be?
I can touch for a bit and then Bennie, let you go. I think it's very important to sort of simplify. One, we do speak so much already in our body language and the energy we put out. I think the less word, the more. So I actually help people simplify. For example, sit. Sit for us means you sit until you're released. Either you have a new command, where some people don't think about that. Oh, sit just means sit. So they incorporate the word stay. So sit and stay, which just adds extra words. Well, stay is not needed because it means sit until the release, all done, or something, give a new command. When you're saying no, for example, as a correction, and in one word, we're saying, stop doing what you're doing, pay attention to us, and then giving a command. So just one word, no, actually says a whole bunch. If we're walking on a leash saying, let's go, that means I'm moving and we're going this way, no time to stop and sniff, we're moving, we're on a walk, so let's go. So we try to teach to say lots of things, but keeping it very simple with just a few words.
Isn't that interesting? So it's the physical word, the literal words we use. It's, again, the non-physical part of it. It's important. It has to be well defined before we use it. And we need to keep that a little bit. We need to keep it as clear and simple as possible.
Well, I had the very first dog that I started working with, her name was Gabby, and she was a border collie. And when we had got her, they said she was going to be like working with a 4-year-old, which I was like, well, whatever. And she really was. She was super intelligent. And I remember sitting down with my daughter one time and listing out almost 250 words that she knew.
Wow.
And that seems like, that's incredible. I mean, 250 words. And then when you put it into perspective, I think the human vocabulary, we're like at 10,000 or 15,000 words that we know on average. That's nothing. It's nothing.
Right.
The problem is that as a human, I want to say all those 15,000 words in front of my dog and think that, she's going to get it.
Yeah.
So when we can simplify that, like Nicole was saying, if I can say one word to mean a lot, it helps a lot. I also noticed that, also liken it to different things that we do in life. When you go get in your car, you're not doing 100 different things at once. You do something very basic to get from one place to another. And it's very small, it's very basic. And you got to make sure that, steering wheel is always going the same way. We're always making constant little adjustments so that the car stays on the road, but we don't even know it. We don't realize it. And it's very basic what we're doing to get from one place to another. And in communicating with a dog, they need that basic. They just need that basic communication. They're picking up so much more. They've learned us long time before we were serious, through our body language and through our voice tone, before they knew what we were saying when we said, come on or sit or down or any of those things.
Well, not only that, they don't understand the words. So if you have a dog that's scared, for example, and you reach down, you're saying, it's okay, calm down, you're fine, you're safe. We think that's what we're communicating, like a dog could analyze and understand those exact words, but they don't. In that moment, all they know is, I'm being scared. You're telling me, good job, be scared. That's right, act this way. It's actually the opposite that the humans think, but we want to add our emotions or the way we would think or respond and associate that with them, and they actually think a little bit differently. So.
Well, and that's what I I try to help my clients to understand with how they're communicating with their animal. That, even when you just said that, Nicole, if you can imagine the scenario, if let's just say you were saying that to a human that was upset and you said, it's okay, calm down, you're actually asking them to do some inner work. The literal words, when you say it's okay, calm down, you don't actually feel calm when you're saying calm down. You're actually a bit freaked out. Like, I want them to stop being upset is what the message that's actually where you are. So we're asking for something that is non-present. Actually, again, animals teach us how to be present. I tell my clients, when you do want your animal, your dog, you're going to take them to the vet and you want them to be more relaxed. First of all, I tell them to explain the whole conversation, explain the whole situation that's coming, because they will feel better in knowing what to expect, even if they don't like it. They're going to feel better. And who wouldn't? You know what I mean? Like, if you know what to expect, at least you're taking away that element of uncertainty. But if you, by saying, like, don't be scared, that doesn't feel good. I mean, does that make you relax?
Well, not only that, it's so
important
to know what you want. Like, the biggest part of our training is, so many times people only focus on what they don't want. So when I go to the vet, I don't want you tugging on the leash, or I don't want you to bark while we're there. I don't want you to jump on other people. But we're not thinking about what we do want. Yeah. You have to almost picture in your mind, what is it that you want? How would you like your pet to behave? So when we go into the vet, I would love you to stay on all 4 feet. I would love you to greet, nicely, but space. If someone doesn't want you to pet them, you can move on. I'd like you to keep your mouth to yourself instead of don't bite, don't, And so even just, we call it speaking in the affirmative, thinking about what you want and how you want your dog to behave and picturing that instead of only what you don't want, because giving your attention to what you don't want is what keeps that behavior continuing.
I would love to just plug a couple of videos, and on my website I have a PDF that you can download, just a free PDF if you go to my website to the animal communication section, and it's basically a lot of this tips on how to communicate with your animal, and it's all about speaking affirmatively. And you just think about, like I said, if you said don't worry, is that ever comforting? Does that ever make you feel good? No.
All you hear is worry.
Yeah, you're like,
if
worry.
You say don't worry, you hear the last word.
Yeah, again, we're asking someone to do some inner work, and that's animals are too present for that to make sense.
Yeah, Bennie told me a story actually once of a little kid playing a water fountain, and the mom kept saying, don't get your hands wet, don't put your hands in the water. And of course the kid would put his hands in the water. All they hear is hands in the water.
Because that sounds fun.
If you use the affirmative, keep your hands dry, be sure to keep your hands dry, then that's what they hear and how they act. And you actually realize how much it's true with dogs, or even with people, with children, always speaking in the affirmative and paying attention to when you speak, how much you're actually using what you don't want as your communication instead of what it is you do want.
And that's what we talk about when we, in the study of the universal laws, law of attraction is what we resist persists. I mean, I think that's outside, but you're giving your attention to it and you're creating that sandwich then. Yeah. That's the sandwich you're building.
It's interesting because we came up with the word affirmative, speak it in the affirmative, because I have such a negative connotation when someone tells me, I want you to think positive. And I'm like, what? Why do I have to think positive? So we came up with this thing of being able to actually speak it, to say it. And if you're able to speak it, then you can look for it. And what our whole goal is that now I can speak it. Like she said, I want you to stay on all four legs. Now, because I can speak it, I can now see it.
Yes.
Because the reaction that everybody has is they're waiting for their dog to do that thing they don't want. They're waiting for the dog to jump up before they react or respond. And that attention ends up teaching the dog to continue to do that.
Right.
If I'm waiting for my dog to stay on all four legs as he approaches someone, then I'm going to give attention to that. And I'm looking for that thing now because I've now been able to speak it and see it in the affirmative. Right. Just to say, to think positive. I mean, that's a great thing. And I've heard a couple of your shows where you talk about, I could think positive. I could say things in my head, and if I don't believe it, it's still not going to be true, no matter how positive it sounds.
It actually, if you don't believe it, it actually hurts you more. It actually makes you more aware of the thing that you don't want. I think affirmative is really appropriate, even more appropriate than just saying positive, because affirm means to declare what is true. It's bringing it very present, and it's forward moving in the fact that we're claiming the now as the truth. And so stay on all four legs, and it feels good when I say that, that, and it's just simple, and it's that very present, and it just makes sense to animals. We ask them to unravel
how many times
things.
have your dog walked up and greeted someone and stayed on all four legs, and you never said a thing or praised because that's how they're supposed to act.
Right.
But then the one time they choose to jump on someone, that's when you're like, no. So yeah, exactly. It's so good to be looking for what it is that you want so that you can praise in those moments and let them know, hey, there's a different decision to be made here. That's what we want.
It's interesting. My neighbor, I can hear, she doesn't listen to my show. She doesn't, so I'm not, I'm positive she doesn't listen to my show. She doesn't even know my last name. But she has she has 3 dogs, I think, over there. And I can hear her out in the backyard, and I hear, and then I hear her go, don't, I'm pulled away from the microphone. She goes, stop. And then, and I want to go over there and tell her, you realize you barked before they barked. You gave them the cue to bark because you started barking. And they're like, we're supposed to bark now. Right. And then the unfortunate thing is that I hear that the dogs actually tussle together, and she starts screaming. And I'm like, you're just barking and fighting with them. And they think everything is happening as it's supposed to be. You know how amazing it is? It fascinates me that so many people who are dog guardians don't realize that when you yell at them or it's not even that you're not really injuring them. You're just barking, and you're encouraging them to bark. And now the whole family's barking now because mom said to.
I use the example. It's like if you tell your kid, go clean your room, and then they don't do it and you don't do anything. And then the next day you look at them and put your hands on your hip and you're angry and you go clean your room. Yeah. And then they don't do it and you don't do anything. And then the next day you go clean your room. And then they don't do it and you don't do anything. What did go clean your room mean?
It means,
Nothing.
Exactly.
It's just that attention for all that stuff that's going on anyway, and they still do that thing. So to join in, I like how you said it, to join in the barking, to join in the ruckus, so much. It makes it, think that that's what they're supposed to be doing. This is my job. This is what I'm out here doing this because you are telling me.
It's such a stressful place for them to be. Yesterday I had a guest leaving the house, and the neighbor's dog came running over and is rah, 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 looking at the owner, and the owner's kind of barking. So then the dog's rah, 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 again at my friend. And the dog, one, is doing what he thinks he's supposed to do because the owner's praising him by barking in with him. But second of all, that's such an anxious, stressed out place to be for that dog. So I felt really sad that he thinks that's the level where life has to be when you have the ability to educate owners to balance all of that back out.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that beautiful what they're here to teach us? I mean, that the dog is there to teach the humans, and I mean you as well as the trainer, Nicole, that just showing us that it is a much more peaceful place to be very present and to be relaxed and to be able to affirm all of the, affirm that relation and the joy of being able to come together and relate. And so I love animals so much.
I literally have a client right now. She is so anxious and stressed out all the time. She just constantly lives in that high stressed out state. And it's no coincidence. She has this dog. I told her it is perfect that this dog is the dog you have, because she takes so much patience that it's teaching you have to calm down and chill out and trust and allow. And so I always think it's no coincidence you end up with the dog that you have, because they teach us so many things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about dogs today, but I'll say the cats, the birds, everybody in your life. You have them there. We're all here to just continue to be our better selves in every situation, every person, every being, every animal. Everything in your life is really your soul bringing forward some new way to know the universe, to know connection, to know the all. Well, we are just about out of time, so I would love it if you guys would let the audience know how they can get in touch with you and any parting words. We have about 2 minutes, I think. Yeah, Jarvis? Okay, great. Yeah, let's tell everyone how to get in touch.
Well, my name is Bennie Copeland. My website is familydogfusion.com. That is the main site for everything, and it includes the Discover Your Dog podcast, which you can also find on all the podcasts. Family Dog Fusion is the name of the book that I have recently written.
Great.
We're still in the editing process and stages. I've been told that it needs a little more editing before we go to the publishing part. And so that's what you're seeing the website based all around, is the book as well. And that'll be coming out before the end of the year.
Great.
We love doing a podcast. It's such a fun event. They're about 30 to 45 minutes long, so they're not a real long podcast. And I would love for you guys to sign on and sign up. And there's a free membership on the website that you'll get potty training notes. You get an ebook talking about the basic tools that I use to train, praise, motivation, and correction. And then there is a video about walking your dog on the leash.
Excellent. And Nicole?
Thank you.
Yeah, so we also have a Facebook page that's Club Canine of Nashville that has some of our training photos as well. And then just back to the podcast with Discover Your Dog. Keep tuned. Do tune in and see us on that podcast, because I'm starting to be on there as well. But then I'm going to guest host, because Tricia, you're going to be on the podcast in the future. So that'll be something fun for everyone to look out for.
I look forward to that. Well, thank you again so much, Nicole DeVito and Bennie Copeland, with Family Dog Fusion and Discover Your Dog podcast. So great to connect with you guys on all of these dog communication situations. Oh, everybody, just go hug a doggie. You can borrow someone's doggie. If you're allergic, take some Claritin and just do it anyway. No, I'm kidding. Well, thank y'all for being on the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll join us again next week, 11 a.m. Pacific. Charmed Life, you can watch us on Facebook, you can watch us on Periscope, and you can also catch the archives on YouTube and all the podcast outlets. And so until next week, thank you so much for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.